All right, ladies and gentlemen, back at you once again. It is another episode of your favorite podcast, which we all know by this point, Keeping It Rio. This is episode 165. So you guys have had a favorite podcast for 164 previous episodes. This one is probably going to end up being the best one of them all because that's the goal every time out, to have the very best episode possible. And today I have a guest that is fully capable of making it happen. I'd like to welcome to Keeping It Rio our friend, Mr. Bryan Clayton. Bryan, welcome to the show, my friend. How's it going?
Chuck, I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on your show, man. It's great to be here.
Yeah, I really appreciate the opportunity. It is, for those watching, this usually comes out on Tuesday evening or Thursday evening. It's Sunday morning here in San Antonio, and this is my favorite time to have these kind of episodes because I don't have anything else going on. I can focus and think and just have a good time with it. So I appreciate the fact that you're taking time out of your Sunday morning, and I am really excited to get down to business. So without any further hesitation, Bryan, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, so I am co-founder and CEO of a company called GreenPal. GreenPal is an app that works like DoorDash or Instacart or Uber, but for lawn maintenance services. So if you are a homeowner, you need to get your grass cut rather than calling around on Yelp or Facebook or something like that. You would just download GreenPal and you pop your address in and you get competitive quotes from lawn care services nearby you that compete over your business. And then you hire one and they come out and mow the lawn for you, and you can schedule and pay them right through your account on GreenPal. So you go from grass being 4 feet tall to getting somebody to mow it in the same day at a fair price without even having to make a phone call. And GreenPal is a 10-year, 11-year overnight success. My two co-founders and I have been at this for over a decade, slowly, heads down, building the app, building the network. It's now nationwide in the United States. Around 300,000 people use it every week to get lawn mowing done. And we're gunning for 1 million, trying to get to 1 million people using the app to get this chore done.
All right. Well, there's our challenge today, ladies and gentlemen. We need to help get this man to 1 million. And this sounds like something that's really cool, very innovative, and something that's incredibly useful in modern times. So you just said over a decade in the making to get to this overnight success. So let's rewind a little bit in time and go back 10 years. The world is completely different at that point. What led you to the idea and gave you the vision to say, hey, this is something that is necessary? Because I didn't even realize it was until today, but you had the forethought to see this and you started to develop the idea years in advance. We get to the point where we are in modern times where, COVID changed a lot of things. What was the spark that led you to the idea and kind of get you, animation as far as going with it?
Yeah, great question. So I think when you are trying to start a new product or bring a new piece of technology to the marketplace, authenticity can be your competitive advantage, and if you can help if you're solving your own problem. And for me, that's about the only thing I had going for myself. I actually ran a landscaping business before starting GreenPal for 15 years. I started mowing yards in high school as a way to make extra money, and when I went to college, I decided I was just going to go to night school and mow yards all day. And then when I graduated college, I had to make a decision. Was I going to just like be a lawn guy with a business degree? I didn't really want to do that, but I thought, well, maybe this is my lane. I could grow this business. I could grow it to be something bigger than just a small lawn mowing business. And so I made a little business plan with what I learned in business school, and I grew that to a decent sized company, around 150 employees, and ultimately getting it around 8 figures a year in revenue. And then fast forward to 2013, that business got acquired by a big national company in the landscaping industry. And so growing that business from just me and a push mower to me and 150 people, I learned how the industry works, how it's efficient, how it's inefficient, and what problems could be solved with technology, and how a platform could help make it run smoother. And so when I sold the business, I started to kind of wonder, okay, what am I going to do with my life now? I really thought I was just going to live this kind of easy life of being a investor or a capitalist or something like that, and that got boring and existential really quickly. Like it was fun for about 3 months, And I quickly learned that part of my happiness in life is tied to a project, a mission, some sort of reason to get out of bed in the morning, and my business was the answer to that question, and it was gone, and so I needed a new project, and so I thought, well, I'm pretty sure I'm seeing, like I took an Uber for the first time in 2012, and that was like magical. And I was pretty sure that somebody was going to build a mobile app in a marketplace that would help make the lawn mowing business work, kind of like that. And so I knew the idea would work. I just didn't know anything else. And so I told two buddies about the idea, and they were like, "I'll quit my job tomorrow and start that with you." And so we did, and it was a lot more challenging than we thought it would be, but we just got in the trenches and started grinding on it, and along the way taught ourselves how to build software and how to design software, and it took about 3 years to get something really going. But little by little, we celebrated little small wins, and the numbers were small, but they kept growing and compounding, and now here we are, 10, 11 years in, we got several 100,000 people using it, and profitable.
That you just made that sound so easy. I love it. But okay, so you're back in time. You've got a couple buddies. You present the idea to them, right? And your friends, obviously, they're going to have similar characteristics to what you do. You're willing to jump out there and really put yourself on the line and try to make something big. And this is the beauty about this is you don't know if this is going to succeed, if it's going to fail, but you've got a couple people that are like instantly committed to the point where they're ready to stop doing what they're doing to join you. And tell me a little bit about that dynamic. How do you approach that? And was there any kind of hesitation? Were there any concerns, or was it just like, dude, we believe in this 100%. Let's make it happen. There's no question that it's going to work. We're not going to have any kind of backup plan.
Yeah, there wasn't a backup plan, so that can be beneficial in a weird way. It's like the old fable of a ancient. I think it was a Roman emperor that would command his soldiers to attack and land on the shore, and then he would burn the boats, and then they would look back and see that their their boats were on fire, and they knew the only way to survive was to be victorious. So this was very much kind of like that. These guys quit their jobs, which they had like 10-year careers at a corporate gig with Dell Computer, and so it was very much a burn the boats moment, which helped us in a way because we had to make this thing work. But I got very lucky with the two co-founders I recruited, in the sense that these were two ambitious guys that had a chip on their shoulder, much like I did, that were willing to do whatever it took to learn the things we had to learn, to do the things we had to do, to make the sacrifices we had to make, to will this idea into existence. As really the only thing we had going for us was that just commitment to not give up, and to give 100% into this idea, 7 days a week, 12 hours a day, until it started to work. And we didn't know how to code. We didn't know how to build software. We didn't know how to do any of the actual things we needed to do to make this idea happen, but we were willing to learn those things. And so I got very lucky, and so I don't want people to hear my story and say, "Oh, well, I just need to go get two friends to go start a business." Because most of the time, like, that's a bad idea. Most of the time, it's bad co-founder dynamics that kill a business. And in fact, I recommend that you go it alone as long as you can, until you can kind of inspire somebody to join your mission with you. Because most of the time, new founders want to go start a business, and they want to go get a co-founder as a coping mechanism, in a sense of, oh, well, I'm not really sure, and I'm scared, and if somebody else is just as crazy as me, it'll help me kind of like feel better about the decision of betting my life on this idea. So uh, I got lucky. Luck's not a strategy with these kinds of things. And when you are thinking about starting a business with somebody, you need to really look at it like a marriage, in the sense of, you know, Like we think about who we're going to marry in terms of like our romantic partner, you know, and for years, you know, we date and then get engaged. I mean, this process can take years, and then but yet we'll go start a business with somebody we've known for a week. And when the reality is that an actual like co-founder dynamic is more it's harder to unwind than an actual marriage, and you're probably going to spend more time with this co-founder than you are your actual spouse. So think about it like that. Look for your business soulmate in a sense, is how I would look at it. And so I got lucky. And if I had to do it all over again, you know, knowing what I know now, and I didn't have the options I did, I would have, you know, gone it alone a lot longer before rushing out to get co-founders.
It makes perfect sense. And I think one of the questions that kind of spawns off of that is, you know, in the early days, obviously this was your idea. You're the one that came up with it, and you've got this vision. When you bring other people in and they've got stake in the corporation, then I believe that, you know, their visions also become important to them, to the point where sometimes their vision will try to overtake what yours was. Have you had anywhere along the time frame, you know, in the early days when things are starting to develop, well, hey, what if we try this? It might be better. Any type of resentment or anything like that along the way as far as the development of the company has gone with that dynamic of your partners?
That's a really good question. And a lot of times, you know, I just got back from Dubai, and you see the most efficient form of government is that of a benevolent dictator. Like they have a king, and for 30 years, this dude has just made the most efficient decisions and the best decisions in the interests of the people of the United Arab Emirates. And so like whatever you think about, you know, that country and that form of government, you know, they turned a desert into like one of the most powerful cities economically in the world in 30 years. So running a company is kind of like that. And Steve Jobs kind of proved it with how he rebuilt Apple. You kind of really do want a benevolent dictator at the helm, somebody who has a relentless vision, who understands what the future could look like, and is just relentless about the execution of that, and then gets people to buy into that mission and puts the right people in the right seats of the bus. And we got lucky in a sense that that's kind of, I'm not comparing myself to any of these people, but I'm trying, like that's the style that I'm trying to emulate, in a sense of, I spent 15 years in the industry. I kind of knew where it was broken. I knew what was wrong with it. I knew what needed to be fixed with it. So this is the vision based on my tacit knowledge and my scars. So who's with me? Let's go. Let's charge up the mountain. And that's kind of how it unfolded. So we didn't have to waste a bunch of time of debating, you know, what customers really wanted and how this thing should really look like, and because building a startup is a lot like poker in the sense of you're making bets and you don't really know how those things are going to play out, and you're just using intuition and what knowledge you have on the board to make the best bet. So we were able to sidestep a lot of those things. But to your point, those dynamics of arguing as far as like what direction the company should go in and what key decisions should be, how they should be made, like kill a lot of startups. So it really does help for there to be like one alpha, one benevolent dictator, and then everybody's following that person's lead. And if you don't have that could be like a recipe for disaster. Now there is a good, like, it's good to have tension. It's good to like have an exchange of ideas, and sometimes that does help. But a lot of times if you're fighting over like key decisions in the early days, it's taking you away from the only two things that matter, which is building something and getting people to use that thing. And if you're not doing any of those two things, you're wasting time, and you're gonna like be dead on arrival.
Yeah, and at that point, like I say, all your vision, all your effort, all your hard work, it went for naught. And it's great to be aware of that on the front end, because I've seen a lot of times, I'm in the roofing industry and I have been for the last 26 years. And before I had my roofing company, I was in distribution, and I would help roofing contractors all over the country. And you see the same thing over and over and over again. It's like, you know, one guy's going to team up with some dumbass who, you know, is going to do something to bring them down, right? And they never seem to see it until it's too late. But you can clearly see that the dynamic isn't going to work from the outside. And it's always interesting when you get the stories from the inside and they always say, well, I thought it was going to work, or it seemed like a good idea. But to be aware of those potential pitfalls on the front end and to say, look, this is how it is. You're either in or you're out, but it's not going to change. I think that's tremendous. And it shows exactly why you're sitting where you are today versus having a busted idea and telling people, 50 years from now, like I had the invention before, you invented whatever it was before it got huge. And everybody says, yeah, okay, good story, Grandpa. So that's a pretty cool way to get started with your company. Now you've got the idea, you've got the vision, you've got the people. You clearly stated on a couple different occasions. Now at this point, you do not have the technical knowledge on how to build this, but you're willing to learn. So tell me a little bit about the process of how you learn. How do you go about finding these educational tools? How do you go about implementation to get to the level where this is now something that's presentable? Because I know myself, I'm proud of some of the work I do. I make these little flyers for my roofing company on Canva, and I feel like I'm, yay. But then you look at it and you say, oh, is that something that is really going to be appealing to the masses to get hundreds of millions of people? You're in the hundreds of thousands weekly, and it's like, how do you do that? You start off as the Oregon Trail, which is a couple stick figures, and then you evolve as you go, or do you just dive in and make a huge investment on the front end and work with people that can help get you there quicker?
It's a great question. So ideally, when you're starting a business like this, you get a hacker and a hustler. So you get somebody like a hustler, somebody, and I don't mean a hustler in like the connotation of the negative sense, but I mean like somebody who is just driven to drive a business forward, who's pissed off if things aren't moving forward, who's like, why aren't we hitting our numbers? What's going on? Why isn't the phone ringing? Like let's get this thing moving. Come on, guys, let's go. Like the hustler. And then you get a hacker, like maybe this guy or gal has been coding up websites since they were 15 years old, and they're just into coding. They like that stuff, and they always have, and that's just who they are. And then these two people come together, and it's like Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak, and 1 + 1 is 10. That's hard to put together because it's hard to like these two personality types rarely are like in the same room together, and like they rarely hang out together. And so like that's how it was for me 10 years ago. I didn't know any hackers. And so I started a business with two other hustlers. And so we had three hustlers. And so we kind of had to become the hackers, which you can do that. But that took us 3 years. And it was really excruciating because we're learning, we're taking classes all day and coding all night. And it did that for like 2 years until we could get to a point where we could build to a point where it would work. And we actually got to a point where we had some proficiency. But the first thing we did was made the huge mistake of getting seduced by the idea that we could outsource this stuff and not have to learn it. And that's a big mistake that a lot of non-technical founders make, is thinking that, okay, well, I have this idea for a software product, and so I'm going to go hire some shop to build it, and then I'll just do everything else. That's what we thought would work, and that's what we did. And we did that and spent like 9 months and $150,000 building the first version, and it was like dead on arrival. It was just hard to use. It was clunky. It was buggy, and I quickly realized that it was a pipe dream to think that we were going to be in the technology business and not have the ability to execute technology at our core competency. And so it was like a gut check moment. And I talked to my co-founders, and they were like, "Well, we quit our jobs," and I said, "Well, I don't have any other better ideas to spend the next 10 years of my life on. So I guess we have to learn how to do this stuff." And I thought it would take 3 months. It took almost 3 years. But I went to YouTube University, spent 10 hours a day taking coding classes online. My co-founder actually put 10 grand on his credit card that he didn't have and went to a boot camp, which was like a structured school, like in-person school, that taught the back end programming. It took 6 months, but he got to a point where he could be dangerous. And then he and I kind of worked hand in hand and rebuilt the whole damn thing ourselves, writing every line of code ourselves. And that put us in a position where we could at least have something we could improve on, and we could go hustle up 20 or 30 customers. They could use it. They would tell us everywhere it sucked. Then we could fix it. And then just do that over and over and over and over again. Get more customers, they tell us where we suck, fix those things. Get more customers, they tell us everywhere we suck, fix those things. And do that for like years. And they get to a point where you wake up one day and you're like, damn, there's 10,000 people using this thing today. Okay, now we got a little business going here. And that only took 6 years. Okay. That's literally how it unfolded.
That is amazing. And I love the perseverance, because you're spot on when you say, you know, a guy like myself, okay, I am definitely more of a personality type, like face of the brand kind of guy. I do lots of videos and things like that. But when it comes to the, you know, paperwork aspect of doing it, I outsource that because I realize that's not something I'm strong at. And quite frankly, you know, I don't have any aspirations to get to that. But to realize, okay, if we're going to be in this field, you know, when I go out and represent myself as a roofer, I know everything about roofing. I don't have to tell people about how to file the paperwork or any of that stuff. I just know about what I'm doing on the front end. You've got the front end product, but now you've got to learn the entire back end. And like you said, the expectations were probably, you know, a little bit greater than what the reality ended up being for you, as far as the timelines and things like that. You've got, you know, credit cards being charged for things like that. What kind of income, or what are you guys actually doing at this point with, you know, leaving the jobs and being unemployed, technically working on your product? How are you guys surviving during these lean times at the beginning, and as it starts to, you know, develop a little bit?
You know, Chuck, that's a great question. It doesn't get talked about enough. Because somebody asked me the other day, it was like a new founder, and they asked me this question. They said, "Hey, you know, I've got my corporate job. I worked there 10 years. I hate it, and I wanna have my own company. I want to start my own business. Um, but man, like I could barely make ends meet now, and like I need 150 grand a year just to like keep the lights on. You know, between my house payment, my 2 car payments, and my student loans, and all this. Like how does that work? Do like investors pay that, or like how do I pay that $150,000 if like I don't have any sales?" And I'm like, like it doesn't work. Like you don't, you know, it doesn't work like that. And so the reality is the least you can live on, the greater your options. And that's a Mark Cuban quote, and I love that quote because it's true. It's like before you go into battle, the battle of starting a startup, you have to like get in shape really physically because it is exhausting, but also financially. Like your house has to be in order. You need to get a smaller apartment. You need to get a roommate. You need to get rid of the car payment. You need to drive something that's 15 years old. You need to get rid of the credit card debt, the student loan debt, and get ready for battle before you start this because it's gonna like every dime you can save at a personal level, at a personal burn, is another dollar or dime you can put into the business to help grow it. And so for us, that's how it went. You know, now luckily I you know was fortunate enough to spend 15 years and build and sell a company. So I was kind of like middle class secure. And I didn't have to have a job. I didn't have to have a paycheck. And so that took care of me where I could work, you know, 80 hours a week on this thing and not have to have a paycheck. My 2 co-founders weren't that fortunate. And so they had to you know move in together, you know, share an apartment that was really wasn't that nice. And you know, live on a $10 a day food budget, and drive for Uber, and walk dogs on Rover, and do side gigs and side jobs and things like that to make ends meet. Um, until we were able to pay them a salary, and the first salary that we were able to pay them was like 2 grand a month, and that took 2 years. So the reality is like it's going to take a year or two to hustle up enough revenue to try to pay yourself something. But if you can stick with it a decade, it is better than working a job somewhere.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the game planning is so essential. I'll take a brief second. I want to tell you my story if I can, just really quickly. So I have a roofing business here, Rio Blanco Roofing, based in San Antonio, Texas. And my story is kind of unique with this as well, in that this company in 2019 was out of business. It was owned by a couple previous people. The company had been shuttered. There were all kinds of issues financially with the ownerships that had it, and it was out of business. Myself and a couple buddies who owned a roofing company over in East Texas teamed up. We got the company. I moved down to San Antonio, where I had never been before, one day in my entire life.
Wow.
I didn't know a human being here. And I committed to it. I said, I'm going to move there. I'm going to live in San Antonio. I'm going to resurrect this brand. So we did, because like you say, there was no option. I just came somewhere where I don't know a human being, and it's time to make it happen. So I've always worked best with my back against the wall. At least in my mind, I feel like I come out fighting strong. Rebuilt the company. We had a multiple locations within the first 18 months.
Wow.
I spent 3.5 years driving around Texas, going to multiple offices, watching people grow and develop. And then it all fell apart. And basically, what happened was last year, February, a little over a year ago, my partners and I decided to shut the company down and kind of go our separate ways. And it was a mutual agreement. We're great friends. I have nothing but love, but it wasn't working the way that I was hoping. So it was like, all right, let's do something else. Well, I didn't have a plan. I ended up getting a couple calls from some people. I've been in the roofing industry for 25 years. And I've got friends all over the country. I do my podcast and people just know me. So I got multiple opportunities, ended up going down to Florida for the majority of the year and working with a buddy who has a huge roofing company, but also a personal development and a coaching company. And he does a personal development conference. So I got to go down there. I got to be co-MC of an event. I got to meet people like Brad Lee. I got to meet UFC fighters like Forrest Griffin and Gilbert Burns. Got to have all kinds of really cool interactions with people, all the way up to billionaires. There were billionaires behind the stage there. And I got to do all that. Well, I come back to San Antonio after this experience and I didn't have anything else to do. So I got into a little consulting and I was helping my mentor, who's a big consultant in roofing. And I'm in Oklahoma City in the airport. I get a phone call and Rio Blanco is available. My former partners had made the company available. They had separated. And one had gone out of the industry. The other one bought the company outright. And the opportunity was here. So bought this with a buddy of mine based over in Ohio at the end of the year last year. And we just kind of resurrected it again. So
wow.
I always tell people, I'm not just crazy enough to come to a place I'd never been and resurrect a dead company once. I'll kill the damn thing and resurrect it again just to see if I can do it. So nothing but love for that entrepreneurial spirit. But I also understand what it's like to say, okay, I'm going to be eating, ramen noodles for a couple days here because I want to make sure that I can continue to move forward. I have a solid financial partner who helps me, who's got multiple ventures as well. But without that, holy cow, there's no way this could have even been possible. So I respect that. And I think anybody that's been through this process or been through the journey can really appreciate that. And that's why I like to ask that question, because that's my audience, people that go through these things and think that nobody understands what they've gone through. But in reality, we all know because we've all done it. So
that's fantastic. What a hell of a story. And you only got to be right on this thing one time. And so you just keep swinging at the plate and it's okay to make mistakes on the first 2 and 3. It's not okay to repeat the mistake, and you're learning and you're building up a bank of what's working and what's not working. And so now the second time around, you know what didn't work the first 2 or 3 times. And that's a hell of a story, man. And I love the idea of going someplace and just like putting it all on the line, not running the risk of ruin. Not like if this doesn't work, I'm in a hole for 10 years, but like I'm here, I don't know anybody, so 7 days a week, the moment I get in the shower, I'm thinking about this company. From the moment like my head hits the pillow, I'm thinking about this company. And sure, a lot of people will tell you that's not healthy. There's no balance there. But I know of no other way to go from 0 to 1. I know of no other way. and I had to do it twice, and that's the way I experienced it. It was 7 days a week, and it never stopped. I saw a meme the other day that I thought was hilarious, and it was on Instagram, and it was a picture of a screenshot from the movie Oppenheimer, and it's Charles Oppenheimer, and he's sitting on a like a nice chair, and he's really pondering something. He's very pensive, and he's pondering something, and he's probably pondering like dropping the atom bomb or something. But like on the meme, it says me about to lose it because I'm thinking I'm going to quit my corporate job and just go open a coffee shop. And I'm like, the author of this meme does not realize that they're going to work 10 times as hard for half the money in this goddamn coffee shop for 5 years, 7 days a week than they ever did at their corporate gig. I promise them that, and they don't know that there are 20 different taxing authorities that they're going to have to pay, and inspectors and vendors raising prices and taxes that they didn't even know about, and employees, calling in sick, and they have no clue as the 100 things that have to go right for one customer to get one positive experience. So it's like that's a myth that is dispelled and sold to the public, that you could quit your corporate gig for the good, easy life of the entrepreneur.
Yeah.
And that's
Let
not
me
how
know.
it is. Yeah.
Let
That's
me
not
know.
how it is. And that needs to be talked about more.
Yeah, and it's crazy because that's the one thing that I really acknowledged this second time around with it is I had multiple opportunities from different people to partner up, and what I was really focused on was the fact that I burned out. And I had some family issues that came along throughout that time, and just kind of really the things in life that stress you out. And this time around, it was like, you know what? Instead of focusing on doing $100 million or $50 million or whatever, or having 20 offices and 150 employees, whatever, my goals are very simple. My KPIs for this, my overhead is incredibly low for the roofing company. So it's like, I want to provide an opportunity for one or two people that I can meet along the way to help them change their lives. And my KPIs are I want to do more episodes of my podcast, as I am doing at the moment. And I took up golf about 2 years ago.
Nice.
And I want to play golf. So I played golf twice in the last week. And it's like,
That's
did a
win.
roof.
Yeah, that's a win. Nice.
I did a roof on Wednesday. I got paid in full for it. $16,000 roof, not a bad one. I sold a metal roof the other day that's going to be about 30 grand. And I've got some things going, but I'm not stressing. And I keep telling myself I'm not going to outkick my coverage. I'm not going to rely upon insurance companies to pay me in a timely manner to keep my business moving, because that's where the stress comes from on roofing. And it's totally, it's crazy, but totally different episode of the podcast. We'll get back into what you've got going on, my friend. And you've got your guys, you've put in the time, you've learned, you've developed, you've gotten very proficient at what you're doing. You've now got to the point where it's like, all right, let's unleash this out into the marketplace. Now, you don't go from 0 to 50 states in the matter of an hour or two. You've got to start out slow. So tell me about the process. Was it something where you were kind of just looking locally and saying, okay, let's find some people in our hometown to use as case studies? How do you go about finding the people that are good, qualified companies that are going to, number one, represent your brand well and not make you look like a douchebag, and two, that are going to, do good quality work and maintain the standards that you want to set forth so that you can continue to build?
Yeah, it was very much like a hand cranking process in the early days, and there's some good advice that I once heard, that in order to scale something, you have to do things that don't scale. And so you don't want to like be hand cranking forever, but you kind of need to hand crank on it for a long time to figure out how you're going to scale that thing. So everything was run by phone calls, spreadsheets, and face to face, and as about as non-digital as it could for the first year. And so it would be me, manually reaching out to vendors on Craigslist, pitching them on the idea of this platform where they could operate their whole business and bill their clients and get paid quickly and get as much business as they wanted, and then literally passing out flyers for homeowners to sign up and use the platform to hire those vendors. And we set a goal that we just need to get 100 transactions in a week, and not like 100 signups, because that's like a vanity metric that doesn't matter, and not like 100 customers, whatever that means. We just need like 100 transactions where buyers and sellers meet on our platform and they do business. And we thought that would take like 2 weeks, and it took damn near a year. And it could, because there was all these things that went wrong with the customer experience and the user experience. And it was, the lawn guy didn't show up, or he showed up late, or his lawnmower was too big, or his blades were dull, or he didn't mow the backyard, or he didn't blow off the driveway. It was just like a million things. And we realized that all the things that suck about hiring a lawn guy are now my problem. I have to solve these with an interface. I have to solve these with technology. And so we just set out to say, okay, what are the 100 people are using it every week. 97 of them are pissed off. Let's just look at like the 5 things that are happening the most, and let's just fix those 5 things. Rinse and repeat. And that's what we did. And I remember we grew that number to maybe 500 people. It took another year. And I was talking to my co-founders, and I'm thinking, we need to start thinking about expanding to another city. We've been in Nashville, Tennessee for 2 years, is where we live. And my co-founder said, dude, 200 people used this thing last week, and I think 188 of them are pissed off at us. And so there's no reason.
Yeah, let's multiply it.
Yeah.
Seems good.
Yeah. There's no reason for us to go. We were thinking about launching it in Atlanta. There's no reason for us to go to Atlanta until we can like take that number to like 1%. And that was true. And he was right. And I was wrong in the sense that I wanted to expand it regionally when it wasn't working. And so you have to nail it, then scale it. And so we spent another year making that number. If 100 people used it, 99 of them were happy. And so it's just being relentless about being a problem solving machine, and being relentless about making it better and better and better for lawn care companies that paid to use it, and homeowners that hired those lawn care companies through the platform. And it took a long time, and it was very humbling, because here, I had a landscaping business that was doing $10 million a year in sales before this thing. And here I am, running this little rinky-dink website trying to make it work in one city. And it was humbling, but it was what needed to happen. We needed to be low and keep our head down and make the experience consistent and predictable for people who use the platform before we rolled it out into other cities. And that's what we did. And it took a long time, but after we got our second and third city going, we then developed a playbook where we could roll out a new city every month, and then every week, and then every day. And then we got to a point where we were doing 3 a day. Now we're in 300 cities around the United States where there's liquidity, where a homeowner can create a free account, and they can get quotes from lawn care services who pay to use the platform and get business done.
Man, that's amazing. Okay. And the next question I had was very simple, and you just basically walked me right into it, is when you start to scale at that rate. Now, as I've always seen with everything in history, as things continue to grow and grow and grow and grow, to some extent, the quality control suffers a little bit. You just mentioned that you took a product where you had a bunch of people that were mad, you perfected it, got it to where everybody was happy, and then you started all over the place. What does the process of vetting contractors look like when you're putting new towns up, multiple per day, and you're now operating in 300 different markets, because you don't have 300 people in these markets, I would not assume, that are directly involved. So how do you go about finding, a person in Boise, Idaho, or Orlando, Florida, and deciding that they're going to be good for your service?
Yeah, it's a great question, Chuck. So that was one of the things that struck me about is it harder to run a blue collar business, like a contracting business, like a landscaping company or a roofing company, or is it harder to run a tech business? And the answer is like they're both really hard for their own reasons. So to your point, like my landscaping business was based in Nashville, and if I wanted to start another landscaping office in Atlanta or Louisville or Birmingham, that would have been really tough because it would have been hard to preserve the quality and the culture and all of the systems that I had working in Nashville. It would have been really hard to replicate those in some of those other cities. I probably could have done it, probably could have figured it out, but I would have screwed it up for a long time because it was a lot of hand-to-hand combat in running that business. And it was kind of funny one day, like I had a shop manager. We had 3 full-time mechanics. All they did was fix trucks and lawnmowers, and I had to pay a manager to manage them. And the shop manager told me, he goes, if somehow you could figure out for those mechanics to put their tools away and empty the trash, you wouldn't have to pay me to do this job. Because all I do is sit here is just tell them to do the same 3 things every day. It's like, and that's how a lot of like running a blue collar business is like. You're just solving the same damn problems over and over and over again every single day. So it's hard. It's hard. It's like the coffee shop. The guy that runs or gal that runs the coffee shop is going to deal with the same 100 damn problems every day, and is going to solve them every day. So that's hard. Well, a technology business is kind of 100 times harder in the sense that you're inventing something brand new that does not exist. So that's a lot harder. But once you get that thing working, it can become what's called anti-fragile in a sense of not only if you launch it in a new city, does it not decay in the sense of like, oh, I'm not there, it's falling to crap. No, it actually gets better because you have reinforcing systems in place that you've built. And so just give you an example, like with GreenPal, vendors that pay to use the platform are rigorously scored in a sense of their quality and their reliability and their ratings. And so we're able to understand who is a quality user of this platform and who is not. And so we promote the ones that are good and demote and expel the ones that aren't good. And so then that means that more quality contractors come into the platform, which means happier consumers use it, which means they tell their friends, which means more of them use it, which means more contractors hear about it, use it, which means it gets more competitive, prices get more competitive, efficiency goes up, route density goes up, and it's like this flywheel effect. And so we've built it in a way that it reinforces itself for better outcomes. And so that's how a technology oriented business where technology is at the core of what it is can scale and can be anti-fragile and can move into other cities and preserve a customer experience and not only not go backwards but actually improve. Whereas my last company was not a technology oriented business. Sure, we had systems and we paid for software and stuff, but it was very much a relationship based business and a hand to hand combat, belly to belly style business. And so it's hard to preserve that customer experience when you move it into other cities.
Yeah, no doubt. And I've seen that happen many times. So I completely agree with you on that. Let's talk a little bit now about the customer experience. So you've rolled this out, you've seen success, you've perfected the methods, you've got it to where now, you can say, hey, look, our customers are satisfied. This is the absolute best. It's the only one of its kind. What is it like as a consumer now? How do I find you? How do I work with your company? How do I find someone that I can trust? What does my experience look like as a homeowner? Let's say that I'm for just for all fun. Let's say that I'm a 75-year-old lady and I'm used to looking in the yellow pages, but I don't have those anymore because they don't deliver them. How do I find you? What do I do? What's my experience going to look like?
Yeah. So the customer of GreenPal actually is the lawn care company. They pay to use the platform, a percentage of the revenue that they bill through the platform. Um, and the consumer is a user of the technology.
Right.
So the homeowner is not actually our customer. That said, we have to monitor and build an experience for them that is 10 times better than the way you would traditionally do this. So the way you would traditionally do it is you would call and leave 10 voicemails, and maybe you might get a call back, and maybe the guy might show up, and maybe he might honor his price, maybe not. And a lot of times, like, there's this weird case of the disappearing lawn guy where they just drop off the face of the earth, and then you got to repeat that process all over again. Well, with GreenPal, you've now got a system where you create your free account as a homeowner, and now you've got 5 contractors who pay to use the platform competing over your job. And not only are they competing in a sense that they're competing on price and quality, but they actually have a layer of accountability to show up and do a good job because they know they're being scored through this community of people that use this platform. They know that they're being scored if they showed up on time. They know if they're being scored if they get booked for a second, third, fourth visit. And this dictates on how much more business they're going to get in terms of free opportunities or not. And so as a consumer, you get access to this experience that you can't get from dialing for dollars on Angie's List or something like that. And so that's how we've created over a decade. Certainly didn't start with this experience. It got better over time. Created an experience that we believe is 5 to 10 times better than calling around on Google or Facebook or something like that. And so after the contractor does the job, they get a photo. If they like it, they can pay them, and then they can set it up for the whole season, and it just happens. And so now you don't have to worry about this anymore. It really is kind of the way it should be, especially these days when you can get on DoorDash and get Chinese food delivered in 15 minutes. So it really is the way it should be. And I think more and more you'll see more and more apps where you can just get something done, single use apps at a touch of a button. And we've focused everything, in the last 10 years on just this one use case.
Yeah, and I'll tell you what, you've just reminded me of something as well, my friend. And if it's okay with you, I'd like to take 1 second here to give a shout out to my sponsor, which is roofer.com. You talk about your all-in-one solution. Roofer.com is your all-in-one solution for roofers. And if it's okay with you, Bryan, I'm going to share this 20-second video with our audience so that they can learn a little bit more about why Roofer is the greatest program on the face of the earth for roofers and why everybody should sign up. So check this out.
We're Roofer. We know that managing a roofing business can be chaotic, so we created a single platform with all the tools you need to easily run your roofing business. Stop switching between multiple different softwares and experience streamlined operations from lead to payment in hours instead of days. Visit roofr.com to get started for free today.
There you go. So that was a perfect segue for Roofer. I appreciate them for being my sponsor for the last 2 years. They have gone from very, very similar story to yours. There was a couple of guys that started something that needed, that were roofers that saw a need for what they do. They started as a very small company 8 years ago, and I believe they've got over 10,000 monthly users now. So
awesome.
Amazing stuff. And I love seeing stories like that because they benefit us as a whole. So let's talk a little bit now about something that's not relative to your current product, but you mentioned in the past that you have experience with acquisitions. You've built up a company to a very respectable size. You've sold it. You've moved on to other things. What does the vision look like now for you with your program, your partners as well, as far as the future goes? Do you guys, you've invested your heart and soul into this for 11 years. And, that's the fun part, I think, is the journey. But at some point, it just it gets to where it is what it is. What's the future looking like for you with the company? Is it something you plan on doing forever? Do you have an exit strategy? What are your thoughts on that?
It's to your point. it's always got to be growing. If it's not growing, it's not fun. And so I'm having fun running this business. It is still growing, and I'm going to continue to run it so long as I'm having fun, and so long as I'm decently good at it. And so long as that's the case, I'm going to keep running it. And like I mentioned earlier, we want to get to 1 million people using this app every week. Right now at around 300,000, and we feel like we can get there in 3 to 4 years. That said, if we find out that I suck at it along the way, or if I wake up one morning and don't want to do it anymore, we'll get a professional CEO in here to take my job, take my role, or explore an acquisition for this business. But I don't know what else I would do, and I've already tried to kind of like half-ass retire once already, and I think you got to have a mission in life. You got to have some reason to, like, if I didn't get out of bed this morning, why would it matter? And for me, the answer to that question has always been my business. Even when I was just running a landscaping business with one helper, like, if I didn't get out of bed this morning, why would it matter? Well, I've got lawnmower blades to sharpen today. And if I don't sharpen those lawnmower blades, then my customers tomorrow aren't going to get service. And if I don't service those customers, then I can't pay my guy on Friday. And if I can't pay him on Friday, he's not going to be able to meet his child support. And if he can't pay his child support, he's going to go to jail. And so that's important.
It's a lot to think about, right? And that's that's a lot of those thoughts that people have that others that aren't in that life don't think about.
Yeah,
a lot of pressure.
You're right. So it's like, so if you're running a business, there is a public good in what you are doing. And so if all that's gone and you don't have that, life can get existential very quickly. And so all that being said, long-winded answer to say, I don't know what else I would do if I didn't have this business. So I'm just going to keep running it as long as I'm enjoying it.
There you go. I've always said the same thing. As long as it's fun, I'm going to keep doing it. This wasn't fun for a little while. We quit doing it. I got re-inspired by some of the experiences, and it's like, you know what else am I going to do? Quite honestly, I'm 46 years old. I've been doing roofing for 26 of those years. I'm not going to become a professional athlete at this point. I'm not going to become a doctor, a lawyer. I guess I got to go on and continue with what I've been doing for all this time. And I've always said, as long as it's fun, I don't care what it is. I could go sweep parking lots. And if I was having a good time and I was enjoying it, I would continue to do it forever. And I think that's admirable, because a lot of people will sell out on things that they still want to do and they still enjoy, and they'll take the enjoyment out of things for the benefit of making money. And ultimately that's the goal. And I know you're probably doing well with it when you get to the hundreds of thousands and plus users. So let's kind of start winding down. We're getting close to the hour here, which this has been absolutely an amazing conversation. I've had a great time for the last 53 minutes. And what we're doing today is we're looking to help your push to get 1 million weekly users on GreenPal. And the only way we can do that is by letting our people know, how do they get on GreenPal? How do they use it? And what's the best way for this to go down so we can get to that number as quickly as possible?
Well, I appreciate that, Chuck. Thank you. Anybody that needs to have, they've got tall grass outside, needs to be short, just go to greenpal.com, click the orange button, create a free account. Then Lawncare services that pay to use the platform will compete over your business. Just as simple as that. And then anybody that's in the landscaping business wants to check it out, it's free to sign up. Just go to greenpal.com, scroll to the bottom, and you can sign up there.
There we go. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm so blessed to do this podcast, and I get to meet so many amazing people. And today is no different. I feel like I've been on a huge roll with some amazing guests over the last several weeks. And I, again, want to thank you, Bryan, for taking the time to chat. We're complete strangers. We met like 58 minutes ago. We're 53 minutes into our deal here. So it's been absolutely a tremendous conversation. I really admire your journey. The passion is absolutely just coming through the computer screen today. And for that, I can't thank you enough. I'm going to continue to follow you. I'm going to put reels out before we do this. I always like to go to Nextdoor. Nextdoor is one of my secret weapons for advertising.
Nice.
And I post podcast clips on there, and I get roofs off of it. So
oh, nice.
I'm actually going to post a podcast clip of this, and I'm going to tell my neighbors, hey, I see all y'all looking for people to mow your lawns and to do your lawn care. Here's the way to do it. So Maybe not going to get you 1 million, but I hope I can at least get you 1. And that's
Hey,
that's
every
the
sign
point.
up counts, man. We appreciate it, Chuck.
Absolutely. So, ladies and gentlemen, again, 165, 166. I don't know what episode this is, but I always try to have a better episode than the last one. And I got to say, once again, we've done it. We've had a great episode today. Bryan Clayton, CEO of GreenPal. Thank you. Thank you to Roofer. Thank you to everybody that watches Keeping It Rio. Always appreciate the feedback. It's always positive. And remember to like and subscribe and do all that fun stuff so we can continue to grow our podcast and continue to have more fun. I've still got about 2,300 plus episodes that I need to do to get to my goal. So we're going to make it all happen together. We're going to continue to grow. And until next time, I always end my podcast with the worst possible tagline. And I do it because it's me. And that is keep on keeping it real.